Admiral Jake Morrison walked into the meeting room with heavy steps. His face looked tired and worried as he sat down at the big table where all the Earth Defense Council members waited. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and air systems. Jake had news that would change everything, but he knew nobody would believe him at first. Dr. Lisa Parker stood next to a large screen showing strange readings from space. Her hands shook a little as she pointed to the data. For 3 months, her team had been working on a new way to see things in space that normal tools could not find. They called it the quantum detection array, and it could look at tiny breaks in space itself. What they found was impossible. The screen showed empty space near the edge of the solar system, but Lisa knew better. Her machine had detected something huge moving toward Earth, ships that were there but not there at the same time. The council members looked confused as Lisa explained what her readings meant. Admiral Morrison nodded slowly because he had seen the reports himself. Captain Ben Rodriguez was already in space aboard his ship Phoenix when the first real proof came. His crew included Amy Chun, who worked the navigation systems, and Tony Williams, who handled all the weapons. They had been sent to check the area where Lisa's machine had detected the strange readings. Ben thought it would be another false alarm. Like so many before, Amy Chun stared at her screens and saw nothing unusual. All the normal sensors showed empty space just like always. But then Ben looked out the window and his heart stopped. Hundreds of crystal-like ships floated in the darkness ahead of them. They looked like they were made of glass or ice, and they seemed to fade in and out like ghosts. Tony checked his weapon systems 3 times, but they could not lock onto any target. The alien ships moved in perfect formation without making any sound or leaving any trail. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Ben had never seen anything like them in 20 years of space service. He ordered his crew to stay very quiet and watch everything carefully. The ships seemed to know they were being watched, but they did not care. Back on Earth, Admiral Morrison tried to explain to the Council what they were dealing with. The aliens had technology that let them exist between different layers of reality. They could be seen with eyes, but machines could not detect them properly. This made them almost impossible to fight using normal weapons or defenses. The Council members argued among themselves about what to do. Dr. Lisa Parker worked day and night to understand how the alien ships could do such impossible things. Her assistant Dr. Alan Brooks helped her run tests on the quantum array while engineer Rachel Moore tried to build better detection equipment. They learned that the aliens existed in a state between dimensions which let them avoid most human technology. Commander Kate Sullivan led the first attempt to talk to the aliens. She sent radio messages in every language and mathematical pattern humans knew. Her team tried light signals and even music but got no response. The alien ships just kept moving toward Earth like they did not care about human attempts to communicate. Kate felt helpless as she realized the aliens might not even know humans were trying to talk to them. The alien fleet got closer each day, and Earth's military leaders met constantly to plan a defense. General Mike Harper commanded all the space forces, but he knew his weapons might be useless against enemies that could not be targeted properly. The best human technology seemed like toys compared to what the aliens could do. Captain Rodriguez followed the alien fleet from a safe distance and sent reports back to Earth. His crew watched in amazement as the alien ships sometimes disappeared completely, then appeared again in different places. The ships seemed to move through space in ways that broke all known laws of physics. Amy Chun tried to plot their course, but the aliens did not follow any pattern humans could understand. The aliens were getting closer to Earth, and still nobody knew what they wanted or why they had come. They showed no interest in human attempts to make contact, and they did not respond to any signals. Admiral Morrison realized that humanity might be facing its first real war with aliens, and they had no idea how to fight enemies that existed partially outside normal reality. Dr. Parker made one important discovery that gave everyone hope. The aliens were not completely invincible because they had to become solid sometimes to move through normal space. During these moments, they might be vulnerable to human weapons, but timing would be everything. The problem was learning when the aliens would become solid and how to hit them. During those brief moments, Earth prepared for something that nobody had ever imagined possible. The attack came at dawn when most people were still sleeping. The alien ships appeared above every major city on Earth at exactly the same time. New York, London, Tokyo, and dozens of other places suddenly had massive crystal ships hanging in their skies like deadly clouds. The ships had been invisible until that moment when they decided to show themselves to the world. Colonel Steve Davis was drinking coffee at his command center when the alarm started screaming. His screens lit up with reports from around the globe as the alien ships began their assault. Weapons of pure energy shot down from the crystal vessels and passed right through Earth's defensive shields like they were not even there. Buildings melted and people ran screaming through the streets. Steve watched his best. Pilots launched their fighters to defend the cities, but something terrible happened. The human weapons and missiles flew right through the alien ships without causing any damage. The aliens existed in some strange state that let solid objects pass through them, while their own weapons could still hurt humans. It was like fighting ghosts that could kill but could not be killed. Lisa Parker was deep underground in her laboratory when the attack started. The building shook as alien weapons hit the city above, but Lisa focused on her work. She knew the key to defeating the aliens was hidden in the quantum readings she had been studying. Her assistants, Dr. Alan Brooks and Rachel Moore, helped her run desperate experiments as the world burned overhead. The breakthrough came when Lisa realized the aliens were not truly in two places at once. They were trapped between different layers of reality and could not choose which one to exist in completely. This made them hard to hit, but it also limited what they could do. Lisa worked frantically to build a weapon that could force the aliens to pick one reality or the other. Lieutenant Commander Paul Nelson volunteered to test the first quantum weapon, even though nobody knew if it would work or if it might kill him instead. His fighter had been modified with Lisa's new technology that could create energy fields tuned to specific dimensional frequencies. Paul flew toward the alien ships over Los Angeles with his heart pounding and his hands sweating. On the controls, the city below was in ruins with buildings cut in half by alien beams and fires burning everywhere. Paul's squadron included Maria Santos and Kevin Gray, who were also flying experimental fighters. They approached the crystal ships that hung motionless in the air like they were waiting for something. Paul activated his quantum weapon and fired. At the nearest alien vessel, for the first time in the war, a human weapon hit an alien ship. The crystal vessel shimmered and became solid for a few seconds before exploding in a shower of strange light. Paul shouted with joy, but then he saw what his weapon had done to the space around the destroyed ship. Reality itself was cracking like broken glass, and the cracks were spreading. The quantum weapons worked, but they came with a terrible price. Each time a human fighter destroyed an alien ship, the fabric of space and time got damaged in that area. Buildings and people near the reality cracks began to fade away or change into impossible shapes. Paul realized they had found a way to hurt the aliens, but using it might destroy Earth itself. Maria Santos engaged another alien ship, but when her quantum weapon fired, the energy beam split the air and created a hole in reality. Through the hole, she could see strange colors and shapes that should not exist. The alien ship was destroyed, but the hole kept growing and started pulling things into it. Maria had to fly away quickly before her own fighter got sucked into whatever was on the other side. Colonel Davis coordinated the defense, but he could see that victory was coming at too high a cost. Every alien ship his pilots destroyed left a scar in reality that made the area around it dangerous or impossible to enter. At this rate, Earth might win the battle, but lose everything that made it worth saving. He ordered his pilots to be more careful about where they used the quantum weapons. Dr. Parker watched the battle results and knew they needed a better solution. The quantum weapons were like using explosives to perform surgery. They could hurt the aliens, but they also damaged the patient, which was reality itself. She began working on a more precise version that could target the aliens without tearing holes in space and time. The first day of the war ended with both sides badly hurt. The aliens had destroyed large parts of many cities and killed millions. of people, but they had also lost dozens of their crystal ships. More importantly, they now knew that humans could fight back. The alien fleet pulled back from Earth's surface, but stayed close enough to continue the attack when they were ready. Paul Nelson returned to base with his fighter damaged and his mind full of terrible images. He had seen things through the reality, cracks that no human was meant to see. Other dimensions with their own rules and creatures that lived in spaces between spaces. The war was changing not just Earth, but the very nature of existence around their planet. Admiral Morrison looked at the reports and knew the real war was just beginning. The aliens were learning from their losses and would adapt their tactics. Meanwhile, Earth's quantum weapons were too dangerous to use freely without risking the destruction of reality itself. Humanity had won the first battle, but at a cost that might make victory meaningless in the end. Admiral Morrison made the hardest decision of his career when he approved the construction of humanity's first dimensional warfare fleet. The new ships would use technology that could kill their own crews if something went wrong. Every person who volunteered knew they might disappear into another dimension or get torn apart by quantum forces, but they signed up anyway because Earth needed defenders who could fight the aliens on equal terms. Captain Rodriguez stood in the shipyard looking at his new command. The ship was called Horizon, and it looked different from any vessel humans had ever built. Strange crystals grew from its hull like metal trees, and the entire ship seemed to flicker between solid and transparent. The quantum phase generators that powered it were based on alien technology that Dr. Parker's team had learned to copy after studying Destroyed Enemy ships. Sam Carter was the chief engineer aboard Horizon, and he understood the ship's systems better than anyone except maybe Dr. Parker herself. The quantum engines could push the ship partially out of normal space, which would let it become invisible like the alien vessels. The problem was that human minds were not designed to exist between dimensions, and staying phased too long could drive the crew insane. Dr. Helen White served as the ship's medical officer, and she had studied what happened to people exposed to quantum fields for too long. The human brain started to forget which reality was real and which was just a possibility. Crew members would see things that had not happened yet or remember events from timelines that never existed. Helen developed drugs that could help, but they only worked for a limited time. Jim Foster handled the ship's weapons and tactical systems. The new quantum cannons could fire energy that existed in multiple dimensions at once, which meant they could hit alien ships even when they were phased. The weapons were incredibly powerful, but they also consumed massive amounts of energy and created dangerous quantum feedback that could damage the ship firing them. Captain Rodriguez took his ship on its first mission with mixed feelings of excitement and terror. The Horizon phased out of normal space, and suddenly the crew could see things differently. Space was full of colors and shapes that did not exist in regular reality. Other dimensions pressed against their own like soap bubbles, touching each other, and the crew could glimpse alien worlds through the barriers between realities. Commander Kate Sullivan developed new ways to fight enemies that could appear and disappear at will. Her fleet included ships commanded by Captain Lisa Turner and Commander Doug Mitchell, who had learned to think in 4 dimensions instead of 3. Naval battles now involved ships chasing each other through layers of reality while trying to predict where their enemies would appear next. The war became something unlike anything humans had ever experienced. Battles were fought in multiple dimensions at the same time, with ships phasing in and out of existence as they maneuvered for better positions. A ship could be winning in one reality while losing in another, and crews had to keep track of several versions of the same fight happening simultaneously. Dr. Parker made a discovery that changed everything humans thought they knew about the aliens. The crystal ships were not invaders coming to conquer Earth for resources or territory. They were refugees running from something that was destroying their home dimension. The aliens needed to expand into human space not because they wanted to, but because they would die if they could not find somewhere new to exist. This news split Earth's leadership into 2 groups. General Harper and his supporters believed the aliens were still enemies regardless of their reasons for attacking. They wanted to destroy every alien ship and drive the invaders away from human space. Director Amy Johnson led the other side, which argued that both species were victims of a larger cosmic disaster and should work together to find a solution. The quantum war spread beyond Earth as both sides fought for control of strategic locations throughout the solar system. Mars became a battleground where human and alien forces clashed among the red planet's ancient canyons. The asteroid belt turned into a maze of hidden bases and quantum weapon platforms that could strike enemies across multiple dimensions. Captain Rodriguez led missions to establish quantum detection stations on Mars and the outer moons. These installations could track alien movements through dimensional space and provide early warning when enemy fleets were approaching. The work was dangerous because the stations had to exist partially outside normal reality to function properly. Storms began appearing near places where major battles had been fought. These were areas where the fabric of space and time had been damaged so badly that natural laws no longer worked properly. Ships could fly into a reality storm and come out in the past or future or in a completely different location. Some vessels disappeared entirely and were never seen again. Commander Sullivan's diplomatic team kept trying to establish communication with the aliens despite the ongoing war. They broadcast mathematical concepts and physical constants that should be universal but got no response. The aliens seemed focused entirely on their expansion into human space and showed no interest in negotiation or compromise. Dr. Parker's research team expanded to include specialists like xenobiologist Dr. Carl Ross, who studied alien remains, and quantum mathematician Dr. Nina Bell, who tried to understand the mathematics behind dimensional technology. They worked in underground laboratories that were shielded from quantum interference while the war raged in the skies. Above them, the team discovered that the ongoing conflict was making the dimensional barriers weaker. Each quantum explosion and each reality storm created tiny cracks in the walls between different layers of existence. If the war continued much longer, these cracks might grow large enough to let dangerous things through from other dimensions. Captain Rodriguez experienced this firsthand when his ship encountered something that should not exist. While phased between dimensions, the horizon detected massive shapes moving in the deep quantum foam that separated realities. The things were too large to be ships and too organized to be natural phenomena. They seemed to be watching the war between humans and aliens with interest that felt hungry and patient. The war spread across the entire solar system as both humans and aliens fought desperately for survival. Captain Rodriguez commanded a fleet of quantum-phase ships that could travel between dimensions, but each mission cost lives as crew members, were lost to dimensional storms or driven insane by exposure to impossible geometries. His ship Horizon had become a veteran of the dimensional war, but Rodriguez could see the strain on his people's faces every time they phased into the space between realities. Major Sarah Collins led ground troops defending quantum research facilities. From alien infiltrators who could walk through walls and appear inside secure bunkers, her soldiers wore special armor equipped with dimensional anchoring devices that kept them locked into normal reality, even when aliens tried to phase shift the ground beneath their feet. The psychological pressure was enormous because her troops had to fight enemies who could attack from directions that did not exist in normal space. The aliens had learned to use humanity's own quantum weapons against them by creating reality traps where dimensional tiers would suddenly open under human positions. Sarah's forces developed new tactics for fighting in areas where up and down might change without warning and where gravity could flow sideways or backwards. Her troops learned to trust their equipment more than their senses because what they saw might not match what was really happening. Dr. Parker's laboratory had grown into a massive underground complex where teams of scientists worked around the clock to understand the dimensional crisis. Her colleague Dr. Carl Ross had discovered that alien bodies were not entirely solid even when dead, but existed as quantum probability clouds held together by exotic energy fields. Dr. Nina Bell's mathematical models showed that the war was accelerating. The breakdown of dimensional barriers at a rate that threatened the entire local spacetime structure. Commander Sullivan's diplomatic corps had established contact with other refugee groups, fleeing from whatever disaster had destroyed the aliens' home dimension. These contacts revealed that the crystal ships were just one species among many that had been displaced by something the refugees called the Void Hunters. The diplomatic team began to understand that Earth was not just defending itself from one alien invasion, but was standing in the path of a cosmic catastrophe. The space around Jupiter became a major battleground when alien forces tried to establish a dimensional gateway that would let them bring more refugees through from their dying reality. Human forces led by Captain Lisa Turner fought to prevent the gateway's activation while alien defenders tried to protect the massive quantum constructs they were building in the gas giant's magnetosphere. The battle lasted for weeks as ships from both sides phased in and out of multiple dimensions while trying to control the Gateway Project. Reality. Storms grew stronger and more frequent as the dimensional damage accumulated from months of quantum warfare. Entire asteroids began shifting between different probability states, and some moons started existing in multiple time periods simultaneously. Navigation became nearly impossible in affected areas because charts could not account for locations that might be in the past, present, and future at the same time. Captain Rodriguez led a desperate mission to investigate the source of an especially dangerous reality storm near Mars. His quantum sensors detected massive structures moving through the dimensional barriers like sharks swimming through underwater currents. These entities seemed to be feeding on the energy released by the war between humans and aliens, and they were growing larger and more active as the conflict continued. Parker realized that the dimensional damage was attracting attention from things that lived in the spaces between realities. Her team detected quantum signatures that matched nothing in human or alien databases, but resembled the mathematical patterns associated with cosmic-scale predators. The war was opening doors that both species might regret having unlocked. Major Collins faced her hardest battle when alien infiltrators managed to phase shift an entire military base into a parallel dimension where human weapons could not function properly. Her troops found themselves fighting in a twisted version of their own facility where corridors led to impossible places and equipment behaved according to alien physics. The battle became a race to find the dimensional anchor points that were keeping the base trapped in the wrong reality. The quantum research stations that Captain Rodriguez had established throughout the solar system began detecting coordinated movement patterns among the deep space entities. Intelligence analysts realized that the cosmic predators were not just scavenging energy from the dimensional damage, but were actively working to make the tiers in reality larger and more permanent. The war between humans and aliens was serving the purposes of something much more dangerous. Commander Sullivan's team made a breakthrough when they finally established limited communication with a faction of aliens who called themselves the Preservation Fleet. These aliens revealed that their species was not originally aggressive but had been forced to become militaristic by the constant threat of the Void Hunters. The alien expansion into human space was not conquest but desperate flight from predators that consumed entire dimensions. Nina Bell's calculations showed that the dimensional barriers around Earth's solar system would collapse completely within months if the current rate of quantum damage continued. This would not only destroy both human and alien civilizations, but would also create a permanent gateway for the cosmic entities that were already showing interest in local space. The mathematics were clear that both species faced extinction. Unless they found a way to work together, the war had reached a critical point where victory by either side would actually mean defeat for both. Admiral Morrison faced the impossible decision of whether to trust beings who had killed millions of humans, but who might be the only allies available against a threat that could destroy reality itself. The enemy of humanity's enemy was not necessarily humanity's friend, but might be humanity's only hope for survival. Captain Rodriguez reported that the deep space entities were becoming more bold in their movements, and some were already testing the dimensional barriers around populated worlds. Time was running out for both species to find a solution before something much worse than war arrived to consume everything they were fighting to protect. The first contact with the alien peace faction came through quantum entanglement signals that nearly drove the human receivers insane. Commander Sullivan's communication team detected patterns in dimensional static that seemed intentional, but following them required exposing their minds to alien thought processes that operated on completely different logical principles. The breakthrough came when Dr. Parker realized the aliens were not trying to send words but were sharing pure mathematical concepts that transcended language. The entity that humans designated as Echo became the primary contact point between species. Echo existed as a quantum consciousness that could partially materialize in human space while maintaining its connection to the alien collective. Communication with Echo was painful and incomplete because human minds could only grasp fragments of the multidimensional concepts that aliens used for thinking. Each conversation left the human participants with severe headaches and temporary memory gaps. Admiral Morrison faced the most difficult decision of his military career when Echo revealed the true scope of the cosmic threat. The Void Hunters were not just another alien species, but were entities that consumed the energy released when entire dimensions collapsed. They had already destroyed hundreds of realities and were working systematically through local spacetime, seeking new sources of dimensional energy. The war between humans and aliens was creating exactly the kind of instability that would attract their attention. The alliance negotiations took place aboard a hastily constructed neutral station. Positioned at the gravitational balance point between Earth and Mars, the station called Unity existed partially in normal space and partially in the alien dimensional phase, which made it accessible to both species but dangerous for humans who stayed there too long. Dr. Parker served as the primary translator while Captain Rodriguez provided security and tactical expertise based on his extensive combat experience against alien forces. Echo explained through quantum mathematical proofs that the alien expansion into human space was driven by pure survival necessity. Their home dimension was being systematically consumed by void hunters, who left nothing behind but empty quantum foam. The alien refugee fleets had been searching for stable dimensional space where they could establish new colonies, but every location they found was eventually discovered and attacked by the cosmic predators. The Alliance faced immediate testing when long-range quantum sensors detected the first Void Hunter scout entities approaching the outer edge of the solar system. These beings existed as living gaps in reality that consumed matter energy and even the possibility of existence itself. They moved by creating temporary dimensional tunnels that collapsed behind them, leaving areas of space where nothing could ever exist again. Captain Rodriguez commanded the first joint human-alien patrol mission aboard a hybrid vessel that combined technologies from both species. His crew included Lieutenant Paul Nelson, who had volunteered despite knowing that prolonged exposure to alien quantum fields might permanently damage his ability to exist in normal reality. The alien crew members were represented by crystalline constructs that served as communication interfaces for the collective consciousness. The hybrid ship called Bridge represented humanity's first attempt to merge quantum phase technology with alien dimensional manipulation abilities. The vessel could shift between multiple layers of reality while maintaining stable life support for both carbon-based humans and the exotic energy patterns that constituted alien life forms. Test flights revealed that the combined technologies were more powerful than either species could achieve alone. Dr. Parker worked closely with alien scientists to develop new weapons specifically designed to combat void hunters. The cosmic predators had no physical form that conventional weapons could target, but they could be disrupted by precisely tuned quantum resonance fields that interfered with their ability to process dimensional energy. The weapons required perfect coordination between human technology and alien consciousness to function properly. The first joint combat operation took place when Void Hunter scouts began probing the dimensional barriers around Jupiter. Lieutenant Nelson commanded a mixed squadron of human quantum fighters and alien phase vessels in what became known as the Battle of the Reality Gates. The cosmic predators appeared as moving holes in space that consumed everything they touched, including light energy and the fabric of spacetime itself. Fighting the Void Hunters required completely new tactical approaches because traditional Concepts of attack and defense did not apply to enemies that existed as living absences of reality. Human and alien forces had to work together to create quantum interference patterns that could disrupt the predators' ability to maintain coherent form while avoiding being consumed by the very entities they were trying to defeat. Major Sarah Collins led ground forces in defending quantum research facilities from Void Hunter infiltration attempts. The cosmic predators could appear inside sealed bunkers by temporarily erasing the matter that walls were made of, then restoring it after they had passed through. Her troops learned to use dimensional anchor weapons that created zones of reinforced reality where the predators could not easily manifest. The Alliance discovered that individual Void Hunters were not intelligent in any recognizable sense, but were more like cosmic antibodies responding to dimensional instability. However, behind them moved much larger entities that seemed to coordinate. The smaller predators and actively sought out areas where reality was weak or damaged. These Void Lords represented a threat that neither species could face alone. Echo revealed that the alien collective had developed a desperate plan to seal the dimensional tiers and stabilize local spacetime before the Void Lords arrived in force. The plan required combining human quantum technology with alien reality, manipulation in ways that had never been attempted and might destroy both species if something went wrong. The alternative was certain extinction when the cosmic predators finished consuming local dimensional space. Admiral Morrison authorized full cooperation with the alien plan despite protests from military leaders who still viewed the crystal ships as enemies. Time was running out as quantum sensors detected the approach of multiple Void Lords moving through deep dimensional space toward the solar system. The alliance between former enemies represented both species' only hope for survival against predators that consumed entire realities for sustenance. The final preparations began as human and alien engineers worked together to modify their most powerful quantum weapons for the desperate gambit that would either save both civilizations or destroy them in the attempt to preserve the fabric of existence itself. The final battle began not with explosions or energy beams, but with the careful manipulation of reality itself as human and alien forces worked together to seal the dimensional tiers that threatened to destroy local spacetime. Admiral Morrison coordinated with the Veil Supreme Council through quantum entanglement, links that allowed near-instantaneous communication across multiple dimensional layers. Every second counted as the approaching Void Lords grew larger and more distinct on long-range sensors. Dr. Parker stood at the center of the operation aboard Unity Station, where teams of human scientists worked alongside alien consciousness entities to synchronize the most complex engineering project in galactic history. The plan required creating a quantum resonance field that would stabilize the dimensional barriers while simultaneously redirecting the cosmic predators toward areas of space that were already dead and empty. One miscalculation would tear open permanent gateways that would let the Void Lords consume entire star systems. Captain Rodriguez piloted the hybrid vessel Bridge as part of a joint fleet that included both human quantum phase ships and alien crystal vessels working in perfect coordination. The combined technologies allowed unprecedented control over dimensional space but required constant communication between species whose thought processes operated on completely different principles. Every crew member knew they were participating in either the greatest rescue mission in cosmic history or the most spectacular failure ever attempted. The Void Lords arrived as moving storms of absolute nothingness that consumed everything in their path, including light matter energy and the possibility of existence itself. They were larger than planets and moved through space by creating temporary dimensional tunnels that collapsed behind them, leaving areas where reality simply ended. Lieutenant Nelson led fighter squadrons against the cosmic predators in battles fought across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The first phase of the operation involved using combined human-alien quantum weapons to create interference patterns that disrupted the Void Lord's ability to maintain coherent form. The weapons had to be fired with perfect timing because the cosmic predators could adapt to any attack pattern within minutes. Success required coordination between thousands of vessels from both species working as a single unified force. Major Sarah Collins commanded ground-based quantum generators that created anchor points in normal reality to prevent the dimensional manipulation from affecting inhabited worlds. Her troops operated equipment that existed partially outside normal spacetime, and had to maintain their positions even when the ground beneath their feet began shifting between different probability states. The psychological strain was enormous, but her people held their posts. Dr. Parker made the crucial breakthrough when she realized that the solution was not to fight the dimensional instability, but to embrace it in a controlled manner. Working with alien scientists, she developed a new form of dimensional engineering that allowed both species to coexist in overlapping but separate spatial dimensions. Earth would become the first truly multidimensional world existing simultaneously. In multiple reality states, the quantum resonance field activated across the entire solar system as human and alien forces combined their technologies in ways that had never been attempted before. Space itself began to restructure as the dimensional barriers were not destroyed, but converted into selective membranes that would allow both species to exist while blocking the cosmic predators. The process required precise control over forces that could easily destroy entire worlds if mishandled. Echo served as the primary coordinator for the alien collective, while Admiral Morrison directed human forces in the most complex military operation ever undertaken. The two commanders had learned to work together despite representing species that had been trying to destroy each other only months earlier. Their cooperation became the foundation for a new kind of civilization that transcended the traditional boundaries of species and reality. The Void Lords fought back by attempting to collapse the quantum resonance field before it could stabilize, but they discovered that the combined human-alien technology was more resilient than either species could achieve alone. The cosmic predators found themselves trapped in dimensional loops that redirected their destructive energy away from inhabited space toward areas of the galaxy that were already empty and lifeless. Captain Rodriguez witnessed the moment when the dimensional barriers solidified into their new configuration and both species successfully established permanent settlements in overlapping reality states. Human cities existed alongside alien crystal formations in the same physical space, but on different dimensional frequencies. The war had ended not with victory or defeat, but with the creation of something entirely new. The transformation of Earth into a multidimensional world required extensive adjustments as both species learned to coexist in shared space that operated according to multiple sets of physical laws simultaneously. Dr. Parker led the research teams that developed the protocols for interdimensional commerce communication and cultural exchange between beings who experienced reality in fundamentally different ways. Lieutenant Nelson took command of the first truly interdimensional patrol vessel as part of the newly formed Dimensional Defense Force. The joint human-alien organization was tasked with protecting local spacetime from future cosmic threats while maintaining the delicate balance between overlapping realities that allowed both species to thrive in the same region of space. The war's end found humanity fundamentally changed by their encounter with beings who had challenged every assumption about reality, physics, and the nature of existence itself. Admiral Morrison oversaw the establishment of interdimensional colonies throughout the solar system where human and alien communities developed new forms of art, science, and philosophy that drew from multiple reality states the galaxy had witnessed, a conflict that redefined the very concepts of war, peace, and survival as intelligent species learned that cooperation could achieve things that were impossible through individual effort. What began as humanity's seemingly hopeless struggle against impossible enemies had become the birth of a new form of civilization that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Void Lords remained a distant threat, but the combined defenses of the human-alien alliance had proven capable of protecting local spacetime from cosmic predators. Both species had been forever changed by a war that nobody had believed was possible until it reshaped the fundamental nature of reality. itself and created new possibilities for existence that transcended the traditional boundaries of space-time and species.